Okay. Okay, we're live. Sam is has been contacted by the powers in England to help out with some dire situation and is slightly delayed, apparently, or something along those lines. Um, I started this up and have been speaking with Rose for a few minutes and just started to say something that we thought should be recorded. So we'll see if anyone shows up. Um, what was it, Rose? What was I talking about?
Well, I actually
Oh, right.
a couple things. One
Chapter
is
4.
the chapter 4 updates. Uh, Apparently, a number of things that are in the book uh, haven't been updated from Rails 3 to Rails 4. It's causing a bit of confusion, and I just wondered if there was like a master list of what the updates were.
Right. And so what I said is I think notes have been made, and I mentioned that those notes were public, well, were accessible to us, and I think they have gone under Armando's domain that doesn't necessarily give us access to it.
Yeah.
And I also mentioned that even though there were lists of things to look at and check, it wasn't especially helpful. Even having that list, it was going to require a bunch of work. What I am planning to assign my class and work through over the next few days is going through chapter 4.
Yeah, that's what mine are.
And I've done that before. We
Yeah.
have a bunch of notes. I want to do it again. The problem is is that even if we have, and you know, you're aware of this, Rose, even if we have like, here's changes, here's updates, if we assign someone chapter 4, which they're reading electronically, which is also, again, at least in my lab class, this electronic reading is, you know, not bad if you have two screens,
Yeah.
but if you just have one screen and you're trying to flip back and forth and this and that,
Right.
um, not as convenient. But anyway, even with that, even if I have a list of changes and updates and so forth, that's yet a third thing for someone to integrate.
Sure.
And hard. So if there's a lot of changes, you know, like assigning chapter 4 walkthrough doesn't make a lot of sense unless we could get a, you know, like you were asking, like a PDF or an early release of something we could update. Um, but my recollection too is there may not be an awful lot of changes. And
I'm guessing that there aren't a lot, but I would like to be made aware of the few key things because this semester is the first time that we're doing it with Rails 4.
yeah,
Last
so
semester, I don't know if you recall, but my
yeah, I do. Yeah,
no, we don't want you to update. And the irony is, I had just taken a course on Rails 4, so I was up to speed. Now I'm like foggy. And I've got to scramble and try to get Rails 3 out of my head and Rails 4 back in my head.
yeah. So what will you know, and Sam claims, which I believe, that he has a working copy of the repo.
Hmm.
Unless I'm mistaken, I haven't really like looked at it in detail. My concern is not the end product and the working copy, but
Right.
my concern is, like, you know, the steps and the
Yeah.
discrepancies in chapter 4. So what I would suggest is that any of us who are working on it share our progress,
Yeah.
and maybe, maybe a Google Doc. I'm not sure how that integrates with GitHub. I'm thinking, and this is where I would ask, Sam, if he were here, or if he wants to chime in later.
Yeah.
GitHub, he wants us to put all our stuff in GitHub for a whole variety of reasons, which I applaud. Um, and even though he talked about like sharing READMEs and so forth, I'm still assuming something more live and more easily editable, like a Google Doc, could be a good thing.
Yeah.
So if I start making notes on a Google Doc,
Mhm.
um, or something along those lines, then I'll share it with the rest of the people, and then we can all sort of
Yeah,
contribute together.
that's fine. I got so far with it, and I'm seeing that the previous uh, version uh, of the way I handled the views is no longer working. So I'm trying to determine just how to integrate that change.
Right. And if you want to, like I said at the beginning, I have a dentist appointment I'm going to have to
Yeah.
jump out to, but maybe if I can even start something, a doc, and share it or whatever. And even if there's things that just sort of questions, even if there are no resolutions, that would be helpful to record. And like I said, I mean, when are you going through and trying to clean this up? What's your time frame? I'm assuming over the next few days, the way you're talking, right?
Oh yeah, well I was working on it a bit this morning, and then I have some things I have to run out and do, and then I'll be back working on it again this afternoon and this evening, until I can get through it.
Okay. So what for me, I would be assigning it to my class to work through on Tuesday, which means by Monday I would want to have an idea about whether, I'm going to go with it or not or whatever. What I wound up doing, just so you know, last semester I did assign the walkthrough, and we did have our notes.
Yeah.
And it worked more or less, but because of various ways people could get in trouble, and also the way that we have like a little grader thing going on where we ask people to commit at various times, and then check on GitHub for those commits. I wound up making a decision. I didn't really tell the students, but I didn't wind up grading it because there were too many issues that it wasn't worth the time. That still may happen this year. Like I'll tell the students, yeah, it's great, like, yeah, well, this is an assignment, but if there are too many people that have legitimate exceptional issues, I won't grade it. Not a big deal.
Yeah, I do more or less the same thing. So I'm working on that. And then, did you do the Sinatra one at all?
No, I sort of sniffed around that that new homework. I was real excited at the beginning because it did seem, in terms of principle, bridge the gap before that big homework 2. But I sniffed around and it smelled. It didn't smell like it was fully cooked. At least for those purposes.
I ended up going through the whole thing. At first, I got real excited. Then I got a little, like you were saying, I got a little upset. And then I got through the whole thing, and there's a couple things that I think it's a matter of just a little better documentation would clean it up a whole lot. And on the whole, I thought it was actually very useful, and my students seem to like it.
Okay.
But the only problem that we ended up with is this issue where you're supposed to put in debug at one point in your code, and then the code's going to stop there, and you're going to issue the curl command. But it just blows by debug, which I had heard was discontinued in Rails 4 anyway.
Now, when you say debug, like a debugger statement?
Yeah.
My understanding is that is we should be using bybug.
Yeah. So I put, and I've never used bybug, but the context I got, it was like, okay, so instead of putting that in your code, you just put bybug in your code. So I tried it, and it just blows by that too. So
okay, and it requires just 2 things, because I did it and it was fairly straightforward. It requires the the bybug gem, whatever you put in at the beginning, and then instead of the debugger statement, although my TA said maybe debugger would still work, but I put in a bybug statement, which just stops it.
Okay, well, I don't know. I'll try again. I mean, I have.
Yeah, try it again. And the other thing is, just like we tell students, is the other possibility, even if you have everything right, somehow that line of code isn't executing. So make sure that it's in something that you're 100% sure is executing.
It's executing. Yeah. No, I know what you're saying there. My biggest problem is I'm testing things and realize I forgot to save something. Oh, hello there. How are you?
Hey guys, not bad. Sorry, I'm late. How are you guys?
If you're late one more time, Sam, we may just have to fire you. We'll have to have a
talk. It wouldn't be the first time. Yeah. But it's also it's beautiful because in the using G+, the Google Plus thing, for no one, if someone created an event and then they were not on time or didn't turn up, no one else could start the event. But here you are, enabled by Agile Ventures. You're just able to do it. So it's a beautiful thing.
Right. Well, and you're by no accident. Yeah, I gave you 5 minutes, and then I was like, okay, let's start it up. and then I went live a little while ago. So we
Yeah.
talked about sort of the issues, misunderstanding, status of Chapter 4, which it sounds like both Rose and I are looking at working on that, and precursor to homework 2. And I think I summarized things. Let's see, what I said is that you really didn't have a new update of Chapter 4. We did have a bunch of changes to the book that used to be visible and now are hidden. You said like Armando had taken that in. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean that's right. We had the source book repo.
Right.
So it's like I mean.
Okay, and then just to repeat what I said is I told Rose that even though that was visible before, I didn't find that like extraordinarily helpful. It wasn't like a rewrite of the book. It was just things to look into. So even like I don't feel like it's a great loss that at the moment that's hidden, because basically we have to work through and figure things out. You have a working. You said in the email you have a working repo, and then my main issue was the email that was like Luciano's setup. Looks really nice, but as you indicated, it's old, right?
Yeah. For some reason, John replied to an email from a very long time ago. I'm not sure why he did that. I mean, I guess he was like browsing the history, older ones, and found it, and anyway.
Okay, so that was like my main agenda, is like, what's with that email, and why is that? But I think it's just like a sort of an accident that it popped up, and both Rose and I are like looking at working through, and my TAs will be working through Chapter 4 and trying to figure out like sort of any issues with it. Your repo, Sam, is the end result, so we know so we can get to the end, but it doesn't have all the.
Well, the repo that's there. Let me.
Right, good, because I haven't like looked at it just before this, and I will tell you too that is I have a dentist appointment, which in theory I should leave early before 10:45, so keep that in mind. I may.
Yeah, sure. Yes. So I mean, going back, like, Chapter 4 is not something that I'm aware of Armando having worked on. The thing that I've always been aware that Rose and yourself and everyone's keenly aware, particularly of Chapter 4 updates. But yeah, what I was saying last week is that Armando has done updates to Chapter 8, and that's
and we got that.
But so
not so helpful at this point in time.
No. So
yeah, but the Chapter 8 was one that had like more serious issues. I had students go through Chapter 8 and like sort of get in trouble, and they did a whole bunch of work and did it all, and then they had I basically said don't even bother undoing it, because they had worked so hard, and it wasn't trivial to go the other way.
So anyway. Basically, Armando, it used to be the case that the textbook was in the repo source book like this, that source book is the organization that has like all of the stuff related. It has the AutoGrader, it has the components of the different homeworks, different bits and pieces. Like you can see there's typo for homework. So now that it used to be that the textbook was in there, that textbook is now no longer there, and it's been moved to Armando's personal repo, and that was at the request of, basically Armando has got like special status for like unlimited number of private repos for the source book organization, but with the understanding that it doesn't include any money-making activities, so the book as a sort of profit-making activity has been moved out. So the side effect of that, of enabling, this, it means that we can support many more private repositories in the source book thing. The side effect of this is that we don't have organization level permissions for the source book repo. So Armando's given me access to this, but I haven't got any mechanism for giving access to other people. But it's suddenly at the individual level rather than the organization level, much more So I mean, what there is that this is the issues for all the problems that I identified with the textbook last summer is there, and as Richard says, that's not necessarily the most useful organization for it. I mean, it's a useful one potentially. This is what Armando's working with. Go on, Rose. What's that?
At least it might point to where we might expect to have to put some updates in.
Yeah, well, that. Go on.
I'm flying blind here.
Yeah. Indeed. Well.
I don't know if you recall, but last semester, my department said I had to use Rails 3. They didn't want me updating because the book wasn't updated yet. We were
right.
So this semester is the first time I'm going through it with Rails 4.
Oh, okay.
And I'm trying to get a gist of, exactly what to update and, what I have to point the students to and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I am aware that my previous solution is no longer working, so I'm trying to update it. But
yeah. So the thing that we do have is this.
Yeah.
Right. So this is visible. It's my raw potatoes. Basically, This is not only the result of doing chapter 4. This is me working through the entire textbook and doing everything in the textbook and doing it all in the latest version of Rails and Ruby, or at least as it was on August last year. So within this, basically, if there's anything in the textbook at all where you're like, oh, this doesn't work, you can go to this code here and see how it works and see it working.
Okay.
So, for example, it's like, what should the application, let's have a look here, movies controller. What should be in the movies controller? Everything. I guess the more interesting thing is the models. Let's have a look at the movie. Yeah, here we go. Here's everything it should be.
Now, all right, I'm looking at movies controller.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing is the original, how it started out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm looking at index and.
Yeah, but this isn't. Remember now, this is not how it goes for the homeworks. This is for the textbook. So if you worked step by step all the way through the textbook. This is the code that you would have.
Okay. Yeah, because so far I don't see much in the way of changes.
Well, there's actually, but not in the places that you're expecting, because in the textbook it doesn't do the things that it does in the homework 1 and homework 2 and so on and so forth. But you do have access to all of those things in other places. As I was pointing out to, so if you look in the stance book report, as Janet was asking, it's like where okay, the homework, the Rails intro. So, like if we're starting with that, where so it's a homework Rails intro. So, okay, we're building it. It tells you to make it work, what have you. If you want. Like, so the next time we're going to do is Rails intros, and then it goes BDD Cucumber. So BDD Cucumber contains the solution.
No, I'm aware of that.
Okay, there you go.
I'm just trying to build a bridge between the code I used to have and the code I'm looking at now. And a lot of stuff seemed to have changed here in a few little places. Like, it's scattered. It's here and there, and then I'll look at something. I'll say, wow, that seems to be very different.
But anyway, I'm sure that's the case. Yes, and absolutely. If the whole thing was pulled together, that would be much better. But in principle, between the new HW- repos, right, which have all of the solutions to the assignments, like the solution to the, as we know, and then like this one, this has everything from the textbook. So every piece of code to do every sort of thing is somewhere between those two things. Yeah. So I agree. It's not the ideal setup. Like, you know, it would be different. But everything in principle is there for all of Ruby 2 and Rails 4.
Right. My framework, and that may correspond to where Rose is at, is as I go through chapter 4 in preparation for asking the students to do that, we'll be following the directions for the most part, and a few places there will be discrepancies. Mm-hmm. So the idea is that we can tease that stuff out, looking, trying it out and finding issues and looking at it. Just to clarify, you really haven't kept track of that in your GitHub repo, have you?
Well, that was what I very explicitly worked through chapter 4.
Right.
As part of this thing. So all of the issues that I encountered working through chapter 4, are placed in here as
okay. That's where I'm looking. That's where I'm missing
issues.
That. Right. Where is that?
Well, this is one that you can't see.
Oh.
That's my point.
Got it. Okay, right. Okay, got it.
Because Armando has made this a private repo.
Oh, okay.
That's what's so frustrating.
Can we take a snapshot of it, just like a zip file or something Yeah,
I mean, I could maybe try and dump a version of this or something. I mean, I could.
That would be so useful. That's what I've been looking for. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
But equivalently, I mean, there's I will. Action item to share that with you. If we look here, this initial commit here is me at the end of chapter 4.
Yeah.
So all the code that you would end up with, the way it needs to be at the end of chapter 4 is here. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay, so if there's any of those intermediate stuff that you can share, great. Otherwise, what I was thinking, and this is where I mentioned before you jumped on, is that if, as we're working, you were taking notes in GitHub, if I'm correct, and so is that the way that, I mean, you're real used to working that way. I'm thinking I will wind up sharing with my students and so forth, like a Google Doc or something like that.
Well, this was the thing that we talked about the other week, is we could use this, we've created this instructor community resources, so we could create something here that would be something that we could share with the students. So for example here, this is set up, the idea of it being like chapter 04.md there. And so this would be I mean, I would say almost here, that we should do a code walkthrough of chapter 4 here.
Yeah.
So I mean, it depends on what you want to share with your students, but I would have thought having a textbook and then having a list of things to watch out for is kind of ridiculous, right? Basically, they want to work through something, so we could just put in, the fixed version in here. I don't know, or a list of issues in there, or I could try and migrate a copy of the issues from here and put them, as issues on this that we can all see, or something. I mean, I'm trying to convince Armando that we should move to a Git book format. So basically, everything will be available through Git and so on. Anyway, we'll see. But
okay. But nothing that way is going to happen.
That's not going to happen immediately. I mean,
in the next few days. So
no. But so now, you're both in the case. You're both about to assign doing the walkthrough of chapter 4 to your students.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you had something that's visible like this, was like a list of, watch out on page 64. Watch out for this. This is This is actually the correct code. This one. If you had that, that would be. Didn't somebody do a? Didn't Kirsten do or Kristen? I can't remember. I got her name wrong. Do a chapter 4 step by step.
Yeah, at various times, and I have something that I'm going to dust off from last semester, too.
Yeah. What if you insert it in here?
Yeah. Now that's what I just exactly want to ask you, is that compared to something like Google Doc, which is better for text and editing and mutual, people working at the same time, is this usable enough? because I would do that on your, sort of on your say so. Otherwise, I would probably have just be working with a Google Doc open and sharing
Yeah,
with.
well, I mean, the reason that I would recommend, this, and I've just like you guys, let me give you all right access to it as well. I mean, you can put in a pull request, but the reason why I would just use this is because it formats so nicely compared to a Google Doc, and it has such a nicer URL compared to a Google Doc. It just, and like editing a Google Doc is not like a skill that's a valuable skill for students to have, or just reading from a Google, but reading and navigating through GitHub is an essential skill, I would say.
Now, what happens when two people are well, I guess, should people just be editing in their own individual space and then
yeah, and then you put issue pull requests or put commits up there. I mean, I've just set it so that everybody can write in here directly.
What are the dynamics if two people are editing at the same time with write access?
You'll get two commits. You'll get a merge conflict.
Okay. But I'm just saying if people are editing, like, just if you go right in here and say, click edit, can two people do that at the same time?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because when you do an edit and then you click save, you're doing a commit.
Got it. Okay.
And then it'll tell you, you tried the commit, and it's like, oh no, you can't commit because there are.
Right. I just haven't bumped into exactly that.
No, and I think the chances of that are pretty small.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say.
But yeah, it's not as, obviously Google Docs is. I mean, I use Google Docs a lot for if we have a live session where people are going to be editing a document in parallel. I think it makes a lot of sense to use Google Docs. But in terms of having something that then, and then this is like, if a student finds a problem, they can submit a pull request. If any member of the community finds a problem, they can say, oh, hey, and rather than it being this process of like, oh, there's this thing and it didn't really work for me, they can precisely specify exactly the change that needs to be made. And then from the person who's maintaining the documents, they can review the change, and then knowing that it's working, they can either accept it or not accept it. It's just, I find that much more manageable, and that's what I'm trying to get.
Okay, so Sam, are you suggesting that we fork this and then do our work and submit the pull request? Is that your?
I think whatever you're most comfortable with. Like right now, if I were you and I had it, like no one else is putting it in there, if I had the chapter thing, I would just edit it directly and slap it in as the initial thing. But you.
But then write permission.
Say again.
Because we have write permission.
I just gave you write permission. I gave you all write permission on this.
Okay.
Exactly.
But that will not generate the pull requests that you're.
No, it won't. Well, no.
So I'm just checking with that about.
Yeah, I guess it's like I could remove your write permission, and then actually automatically this would when you click here, it would automatically generate a patch and what have you.
Yeah.
But when time is short and there's no content, then we don't worry about pull requests. We just get the content up there, and then we can work out the workflow afterwards. I mean,
good. That's cool. I just was bringing it up, and you gave me sort of the answer that I expected.
Good show.
Yeah. By the way, the thing I heard about the Sinatra and the not using debug but using bybug.
Yes.
Maybe I'm misinterpreting this, but the gem is there.
Sorry, you say the gem is there. Which gem is there?
The bybug gem is installed. Right. And what I'm hearing is that I have to actually insert bybug into my code.
Yeah, as we did with the debugger. Right. You had to.
Yeah. And it just blows right past it.
Okay. Well, the bybug works fine for me in Rails 4. In that situation, we've got the two hypotheses are: one, the bybug isn't configured correctly, or two, the code is not hitting that point in the code.
Yeah. Just do a real basic test, because it will work, and then you'll figure out if it's because if it's not stopping at something really simple, then yeah.
I mean, the other thing as well is that I've got all of the code for this My Rotten Potatoes is in the C9 instance. Yeah, so you can see it kind of working there in principle. I don't know how useful that is.
Did you share your workspace with us? Is that it?
Yeah, well, it was linked in the email that I sent.
Okay.
Oh, Ada Lovelace's birthday. Happy birthday, Ada Lovelace. yeah. So this is anyway. It's all there. Yeah, Rose, I've got to go, but the other thing I was going to ask you was like about that was what I was going to say. Thank you so much for access to the Blackboard environment, but I don't know. I had a little look, but I couldn't find. Say again.
Unless you're familiar with it, it's a big pain.
Yeah, can you send me a link, like a URL to the specific place I need to look for these things that I can then pull into the community resources?
Yeah, the thing is, I'd have to just show you how to navigate through it because
it doesn't have URLs.
Well, I mean, not that you can directly access.
But right. No, but now that I have access, if you navigate to somewhere and you copy the URL and then send it to me, it doesn't work. Okay, yeah, Richard has to go. Go on, Richard.
I was gonna. So just. I know you have to go in just a minute. If I have to do anything to make this sort of visible, I'll do it after I come home this afternoon.
Sure, no problem.
And anything else, and then as you work out the Blackboard thing, should I just leave this running as I walk away?
Yeah, that's just fine. I mean, you can close the Hangout and it'll be fine. Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for starting it, Richard. Cheers.
Okay. Talk to you via email, whatever. GitHub. Thanks.
Okay, bye for now.
Dentist appointment.
Yeah, it's okay.
Cool. Yes. Sorry. Yeah, Rose. Anyway, damn, that seems to be the wrong one anyway. Ah! Oh dear, what a day.
I mean, I could bring this up if you have a minute. I'm sharing my screen. I could bring it up really quickly and show you quickly where you want to go. All right.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I would have to send you like a bazillion separate links.
No, but if you send me one, then at least I would kind of. I think I could probably infer it from there.
Yeah, just have a look at my screen.
I'm looking at your screen, yeah.
Okay, so here is my 445. All right, and this is the view that you get.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I mean, you know, I have used.
All right, so weekly outline at a glance is where it opens, right?
Right.
And I have this stuff, you know, basic stuff. Then you want to go to weekly coursework, all right? And then if you're in instructor view, you'll click on a week.
Yeah.
Like so.
Right.
All right, and then you get you can see everything here. You can copy it or whatever.
So there, that URL that you're in, can you just copy that and paste it to me in the Slack channel?
You want weekly coursework?
No. Just the one that you're in right now. Don't navigate anywhere. Whatever's currently in the address bar, can you just send that to me?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
Absolutely. And when you bring it up, do you get this go to student view?
Oh, I did on one of them, but not on the other.
Oh, okay. So you know, I think Blackboard's been a little sketchy this week because I noticed that sometimes I didn't always get it. You're always supposed to have that.
Yeah, I did. I got it on one and not the other, and yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know why that is.
But I got to this thing where I had like the week 0, whatever the hell it was, but I was kind of clicking through all of those individual things, but I couldn't see one that looked like, you know, a set of I don't know. Anyway, I'm late for the next meeting, so I'm gonna if you could send me that URL that you were on, then maybe that'll help me. All right.
Exactly.
Thanks, Rose. I'll speak to you again soon. Okay. Bye for now.
Bye.